In this video, we're just going to explore the idea of whether it is a good idea or not a good idea to use eBay's promoted listings option. Let's get into this. If you've been selling on eBay for a while, you probably have an opinion on this. Basically what this is eBay will put your listings higher up in the algorithm. They'll have the little sponsored number and it will jump it to the front page, or a higher page number than it would be on otherwise. In exchange, if that card is clicked on through one of those sponsored links and sells through that link, not if it sells some other way. If somebody comes to your store and finds that card in a different path, they don't take any percentage, any extra percentage, I should say. But if they click on the sponsored link and then end up buying the card after doing that, then eBay charges an additional fee on top of it. Now, the question of whether it's a good idea or not to do, I think has multiple answers depending on the context of your situation. So, for one, you have to keep in mind, eBay's already taking a massive percentage. For trading cards, I believe it's 13.25% plus 30 cents or something like that on top of all of that. So it's actually, it's a huge amount. I mean, that's how much a lot of consignment services will charge for you to sell cards through them. So it's, eBay's percentage for on the sports card world or anything is massive. It's so huge. So the thought of adding in an additional 6% or 8% or 10% to have your listings sponsored and to get more eyeballs on it is a little bit hard to fathom, a little bit hard for me to wrap my mind around how I could be even paying more to eBay, as they call it on the internet so frequently. But at the same time, there are occasions when I have used it. I don't use it for every single card. I am picky about which cards I choose to use it for. And there's kind of certain things I look for if I'm going to decide to do it. For me personally, one of those is, what is my current margin on that card? If it's a card that I bought for $1 that I'm going to sell for $100 like I just did yesterday, which was the best flip I've ever had. It was an Anthony Bourdain used memorabilia card from Allen and Ginter that I bought in China for $1 because nobody knows who he is in China when I was living there. And I was able to resell it onto eBay. It sold within like 2 hours of posting it, and it sold for $100. And I had such a large margin on that card, and I figured it was the kind of card that the right person might want, that I went ahead and did the promoted listings, and I did it for about 6%. You can choose to do a 6%, you can choose to do an 11%, you can choose to have eBay change the percentage based on different times, based on some mathematical algorithm they have for when it's a more useful time to have a higher percent, when it's a more useful time to have a lower percent, this sort of thing. I think I just listed this one at 6% just to get a little bit extra of a boost, but I just did that because I had such a margin for profit that if I did make a little bit less, if eBay took a little bit more from this particular transaction, I would still make a lot of money, and I figured if I could get that card sold quickly, then I can bring in some money pretty fast with it. So it was worth it for me in a card like that. If I have a smaller margin for profit, and I might not do it. Unless it's a card that I feel I want to sell quickly. If it's a player that's hyped up right now, if there's a moment, Trae Young hits a game-winning 3, I didn't have to do anything for my sponsored listings. I think my entire Trae Young collection in my eBay store sold within like 12 hours of that game-winning 3 he just made in Game 5 of a series that I'm sure they're going to lose anyway. But all my Trae Young cards suddenly sold, so I didn't really have to sponsor it because Trae Young sponsored it for me by hitting that game-winning 3. But if it's a card that I feel like, it's a moment when I want more eyeballs on it right now, then I might go ahead and do it. If I have enough margin for it. If my margin is small, or I don't see why this card would jump into people's minds if they saw it, as they were scanning through things, or on the other cards like this listing, when they're looking at a card, if it popped up and it like triggered something in their mind, or I thought it might trigger something in their mind, then I might consider it. If it's just a whatever card, then I probably won't do it. I'm never doing it with the really low end cards. Thus far, I just figure it's not worth it. The margin for low-end cards is already so small. Although the percentage, if they're taking an extra 6% and you're selling a card for $3, it's only 18 cents. But at the same time, you're probably only making $1 on that card anyway. So if you're getting down to the point where you're making like 50 cents on a card, it's not worth all that extra effort. So I'm only doing promoted listings on cards that are a little bit more valuable, and that I think would somebody would have that kind of feeling where it's like, oh, that card, I want that card. I don't think they're going to do that with base rookies or real simple cards. So I'm kind of being picky on the ones I'm doing it with. I think it's a little unfortunate that this is something that eBay seems to be leaning more and more towards trying to get people to do the promoted listings. I feel like it's just another way for eBay to kind of reach into our pockets and take money from this. I mean, they can. They're the king of this marketplace, and they're trying to make as much money as they can. That's how capitalism works. I mean, they're trying to nickel and dime things as much as they can to make as much profit as they can. But at the same time, I feel like it's just another fee on top of these fees. And when I look at like the amount of money I'm selling, and then I go and look at how much I'm actually netting afterwards, it's a little depressing at times. I mean, it's still fun. I'm still doing it, but they take so much, so much more than other platforms that I'm aware of. In fact, I have this ComC hat on. I've seen comparisons of the fees between the two, and now that I'm using eBay more frequently, I even more like ComC's fee structure, to be honest. Even though well, maybe I'll make another video. But anyway, so I do worry a little bit that the structure of eBay's algorithm is going more and more towards rewarding the promotion, people who spend the extra money on the promotion, and that other listings will gradually kind of go further and further down the search, which is really unfortunate. I don't like that. Actually, as a buyer, it's changing the way I'm approaching how I search for cards. I don't want to support that. So I'm actually going out of my way to find cards that won't jump to the top of like the best match list. I never organize my cards in order of best match. I'll order it sometimes by the auction ending soonest. Sometimes I'll order it by cheapest buy it now price if there's a specific card I'm looking for. And then if it's the best match, I oftentimes will scroll down to the second or third page immediately and then come back to the first page later, just because I'm looking for the cards that are not up at the top as often, because the ones that are getting, that are up at the top doesn't mean that they're the ones that are the best deals. You might be able to find that exact same card for a better deal, or an auction that's fallen down onto page 3 or whatever, even though this other one that's promoted is on page 1 and getting, the card's selling for $30. Maybe over on page 3 there's the exact same card that's selling for $10 just because it's not getting as many eyeballs on it. I think that happens. So I'm actually going out of my way to look for the cards that aren't sponsored. So, even though as a seller I'm using the sponsored feature, as a buyer I'm trying to make decisions based on the awareness that the sponsored feature doesn't mean that's the best option for me to go for. So I think it's one of these kind of double-edged swords things. I just hope, my worry is that they become more and more reliant on this as a system for their algorithm, which makes it even more necessary to do it into the future, until you're to the point where essentially you have to basically guarantee that you're doing a 20% a 20% commission for eBay instead of the current 13.25, which is, they're taking a fifth of the cut of your business. It's crazy. So I can also see why this also, people are trying to sell things on other platforms. I just wish we could collectively get more people to look on those kind of platforms a little bit more consistently, so there was more vibrancy in some of the other platforms like a MySlabs or a BuySportsCards.com or SportsLots or whatever it might be, or Beckett Marketplace, whatever it might be, that there was a little bit more vibrancy, more eyeballs there. Because as a seller, I do see the advantage. I should make a video in the future of my selling, now that I'm selling on eBay more frequently. I've been selling on ComC for a long time, and now that I'm selling on eBay more frequently, there's real differences. I love ComC. I'm wearing their hat because even when I talk about eBay, I want to make sure that I'm wearing the ComC hat because I just really like ComC and I respect them. But at the same time, I noticed like the pace of selling on eBay is so much faster, and I'm going through inventory quick. I think I just have had my store now for 2 weeks because I've only been in America for 2 months now. So I've only had my store for 2 weeks, and I've posted about 250 listings as of today. I believe I'm posting like 20 listings a day, something like that. And I've sold like $1,000 worth of cards. I've sold like how many cards? 50 cards or something like that at this point. In 2 weeks, it's pretty quick considering, I don't have that many up there yet, but I'm selling them fast. It's much faster than I ever sell them on ComC. ComC stuff does sell. It's just like a trickle here, a trickle there, a trickle here, a trickle there, a consistent trickle. So there's always stuff selling, and I don't have to do any work once it's there, which I love. But with eBay, I can clearly see that there's a pace. It's faster. I'm selling things regularly. So I wish there was a little bit more vibrancy in some of these other marketplaces so that we could have that kind of pace elsewhere, so that more sellers would feel inclined to sell elsewhere where the percentage that MySlabs might take, for example, is so much less. So that I wish it was more common that way. As it is, it's not. So on MySlabs, you know, I find that even like a lot of sellers overprice their cards because, you know, there's less competition there. So maybe their card is the best price on that platform, but it's still way overpriced. And so it's making it hard for me. Like maybe I'm not looking, maybe I haven't learned my slabs enough, but as I've been looking through it, I'm having trouble finding good deals. It's like going to the sports card shows where everybody's priced 20% over comps. I find that happens on my slabs a lot. At least that's what I'm finding. Again, I'm kind of exploring a lot of these US based marketplaces for the first time. I mean, I've scanned through my slabs and stuff plenty of times when I was living in China, but it's not a marketplace I could easily use from China unless I also set up a relationship with like Ship My Cards and all this kind of stuff, which adds a lot of additional cost and time and inconvenience. So I just never used those platforms at all until now that I'm back in the States. I'm exploring all of that kind of stuff, but I find the vibrancy on those markets to be pretty lacking and the prices to be too high. So I wish there was more sellers on that platform so that there could be more vibrancy and there could be more kind of competitive pricing and there could be a little bit of a better deals that you could find as a buyer and more consistent selling you could find as a seller. So I might eventually, you know, approach trying to be a seller on my slabs as well, because my slabs isn't only graded cards anymore. They're also doing raw cards and lots and all these sorts of things now, which is really nice, because for me, I don't want to go into a marketplace if there's limitations in it. That's one of the things I didn't really like about Star Stock back in the day. It was only rookies, and I like rookies, but I want more options. I want rookies sometimes, but I also have other cards that I just like, that I think look cool, or players that I like to have, like Damian Lillard. But I don't just need his rookie card. So, you know, there was a limitation in that marketplace, and my slabs for a long time had a limitation of just slabbed cards, which I want more variety, but now they have that. So, you know, it's a marketplace that I think has a lot of potential. I just wish we could collectively get more people to go there so we didn't have to be so over-reliant on eBay. eBay has a lot of good stuff going for it, but it's also got, the fees are crazy, and there's some frustrations about it that seems to, you know, the algorithm seems to be working better for people who pay more or who are going to get, you know, eBay to end up making more money. That's it for this video. The main idea of this video was just about those promoted listings, whether it's a good idea to use them or not. And my summary of that is it can be, depending on the context, but it should be just for cards that have some reason to spark a sudden momentary interest in somebody's mind where they're like, I need that card. And they forgot about it for some reason. It's not just a common base card they might see every day or find all the time, which suddenly seeing it again won't suddenly make them want to buy that card. So I only do it with cards that will have that kind of feeling to it. That's it for this video. See you in the next one. Peace.